The ancient knowledge of written Vedas mentions the cyclical nature of mind and time as yugas. A yuga is a span of time, time-space. As we know, time and space are one and the same, two sides of the same coin. And this yuga, the yugas that we experience, are of a cyclical nature. The symbol of mind or Shakti, one may say, is like a spiral. The ancient knowledge of the written Vedas describes the nature of mind in the context of time and space as yugas. This word yuga is born from the core word called as yuj. Yuj means to join, to bring together, to become whole. Of course, a becoming is simply an appearance of becoming a wholeness that we already are. So mind as experience is an appearance of coming into our wholeness. And as we look at it from different perspectives, we can talk about the same one thing that is a non-thing and describe it in many different ways. One way to look at this briefly that I want to put is, when we say Kala or Kali, we are talking about and sharing information about Kali, which is consciousness from the perspective or the lens of time and space. When we talk about Brahma, Brahma is the creator of worlds, of dreams, worlds, all of that. It's synonymous with Shakti because Brahma is the creator of world, and that's when we call mind, the one mind, as Brahman. When we share about Vishnu, we are again only speaking about the one thing, the one mind and its quality. Vishnu is the preservative aspect of consciousness. The way that consciousness comes into living as it is experienced, of course, by the nature of the mind and what it goes through, the seasons it goes through. Yoga is also born from the word yuj, to join, to become whole. While yuga is a perspective of time and space, yoga is a perspective, one may say, of the living and the experiencing that is happening. They are one and the same. Briefly put, when the mind is vibrating at the level simply of the gross senses, it is identified with its body. It's only with its physicality, body, thinking personal I, which is its personal mind, and therefore the experience of the world and the reality that it has, then it experiences and meets the consciousness that it is through practices such as asanas. It's very body related. It's at the level of physicality. That is its doorway. This is exactly what is experienced for the same mind. It experiences time as Kaliyuga. Kaliyuga is an experience which is deeply dense, steeped in the identity in and as the outer world of matter. As if the world is simply a world of matter, of objects. There is a subject that is I, and there is distance in Kali Yuga, a lot of distance between that which I am and that which my world is, which is outside of me. And we're purely dancing then as if it's a matter that comes into existence. If there is life, it becomes alive at the time of birth, and then it dies. This is the concept that we live as. This is Kali Yuga. It's one and the same, the yugas and the yogas. as we get subtler, as the mind looks deeper within, awareness grows. The conscious aspect, as awareness grows, we start going deeper. DWAPARYUGA, even though it is identified, still continues to be identified as the personal, there is still more awareness than Kaliyuga. At this point, if we look at it from the yoga perspective of living, one may say we not only realize the value of the asanas that are being done, we wake up to realize the value of the breath itself. Wake up to realize as we go deeper into the value of coming within, presence, stillness, the paradox of stillness and movement in our postures. We realize the value of, as we go deeper from Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, we go within, it's meditation. That is the awakening, that's the process. So you can see it is just one and the same. So no matter what we really share about how we explore, these are simply different doorways to the only one thing that is and that which we are, that is living, consciousness. We are currently moving through an unprecedented transformative time, unlike ever before. We are not just becoming more aware at the level of the personal mind. This is the time of great awakening. We are waking up to the self-realization, evolving into that which we are at the next level, at the soul level, one may say, where it's a complete paradigm shift. Living in and as the body, naturally experiencing ourselves in time and space, in an outer world. We are awakening to that identity. I am. I am that which is the creator and one who lives all times. I am consciousness within which all time exists, all conditions exist, all worlds exist. It's a complete shift. It's a complete different, moving into a different playground and arena itself. The living paradox that while I am that which is creating and experiencing and living all these different dreams, all these conditions, all these times, but at the innate level, I am none of the conditions that I experience, none of the times that I experience and live, and none of these worlds. This is the holding of the paradox. I am and I am not. The Vedas mention about 4 yugas. These one may look at it as the states of mind, the nature of time as it is experienced. As a ratio of each state of mind that is conscious and unconscious, we can look at the first yuga as Kaliyuga, where the mind is most dense, most colored, most unconscious, and living as that. The next one is DWAPARYUGA, the time of duality, where the mind is aware but still dances in and as dual nature, actually where most of us are. Next one, Treta Yuga, where we awaken, actually the paradigm shift. I kind of name this as the Holy Trinity, this mind, where we awaken from this personal mind, that is the dualistic mind that is living, realizing I am awareness, paradigm shift, stepping out of the playground to be able to see what the mind, personal mind, is dancing as. This is Treta Yuga. And after that, Satya Yuga. Satya Yuga is living as our true self, pure awareness, timeless, stepping completely out of the play of personal time in every which way. A key thing to keep in mind that while we are sharing this in concepts through the mind that understands and conceives in linearity, Shakti, mind, this living is, as Vedas mentioned, cyclical, and it cycles within cycles within cycles. So there's a lot more happening. So with that, we'll step into the first state of mind or time, space, as we call as Kaliyuga. Kaliyuga is where the mind is most colored and conditioned. So in a way we can say the nature of the mind is dense. And I want us to kind of step into this, kind of visualize this. So imagine stepping into dark, dense, murky waters. While the eyes that look through these murky waters, the eyes are pure and clear. But what is seen through the lens that are the waters. It's all murky. And this creates, when identified as the conditions, this mind lives and experiences time and space as Kaliyuga. What is the nature and experience of this mind, time, space? I want us to visualize this. When we are in the murky waters, looking through it, there's a lack of clarity. And that is why this experience of the mind, simply an experience, is a lot of confusion. Because it is most unconscious, this is where it is completely oblivious of its true nature, and therefore is one with the world and the conditions that it is swimming in. It believes what it is, and that is what it sees in the world: darkness. In one of my previous videos, I also shared this visual, looking at, it's almost like when consciousness dives deep and closer into this, there is more fragmentation. That which we are at the level of consciousness is like this one ocean. As mind fragments itself, we can look at it as we become a river. There is still a sense of seamlessness in that. We are these streams of rivers, right? Subjective experiences. As we go closer and closer, right? So from the ocean, we've become the wave, one can say, or the river. The identity is, I'm separate. The wave is never separate from the ocean. But that's the experience. And the more denser it gets, it's like diving deep, and then the water starts separating, and we then become identified as these separate drops. Even from the wave now, we've become like drops, individuated, isolated drops. That is why this nature of this mind that is vibrating energy is an experience inherently that it feels separate. There's a deep fragmentation, distance from the life that it is. And that's why the core of this identity, if we look deep enough, when we stand as the personal separate self, simply a mechanism. I want us to experience this simply as a mechanism of how the mind works. It experiences, the core of it is alone, being alone, more loneliness, that's the right word, not even alone, loneliness, isolated, separate, disconnection, unalignment. This is the core experience because of this denseness, because the separation is a lot, because it is one with its world. And this world that is of forms is all separate. I am here, there is a subject, and then there are objects. And you can also sense here with this experience how the core experience of this mind that we are experiencing can be a state, naturally so, of powerlessness. We are Shakti, power. We are that which everything is, and yet at this level of limitation we experience absolute disconnection of that which we are. And that is why the key thing to remember, even if conceptually, that's why so many of these philosophies came into place, scriptures came into place, that they were written because the yogis, the seers, the mystics could see this. They could see this coming. They knew that when the mind is going through this experience, these outer knowledge will be needed. We need these crutches at that point when the mind is unconscious, feeling completely disconnected. Another aspect of this experience in the dense waters, as we can see, when you're actually moving through dense waters, our time and space experience is relative to that. So when we are moving through that, as you can imagine, this state of Kaliyuga mind, that's why, is efforted living. We are steeped in the world. We are living in time. And this time we are powerless. We are small and this world looks larger than us, unknown. That's why it's really living as the world that is strange. And especially the conditions that we might be holding, it's a world that is against us, that might harm us. That is the experience. And when we move through these dense, dark waters, even as time slows down. So that's why for us, even manifestation, I am manifest. While I'm timeless, everything already at the level of consciousness, everything already is. Everything already is right now. But when we live in the identity of the mind, the nature and the condition of the mind that we are living as determines the time we are experiencing. The more mind, and if it has a belief of that much time, manifestation takes that much time. It's as simple as that. Once we wake up to that, our true identity. But when we are in Kaliyuga, and that's again simply an experience, this knowledge is not even available to us. It is not even open. And Kaliyuga is also called as the Iron Age. I want to mention this because iron, if you look at it, is not, it's a metal that is very dense. It's not reflective, telling us that there is not enough light in that. So this is the Kaliyuga state of mind. It is dense, dark, even to shape iron, it needs to go through a lot of process, repetition, of actually molding it. It needs to go through fire. And that's the experience of this mind. Life seems hard. Life seems like a struggle. Life seems efforted. There is no identity of a self at some level at all. It is one with the world. The one way that this mind, again, coming back to the energetic aspect of it, because many a times we think of the mind as this thinking mind, which is conceptual. What we don't realize is that mind, the realm of mind, is pure energy. And at the energetic level, this mind is a dance, unique dance of masculine and feminine energy. Now, I won't share about that much here because I'm going to share in one of my surrender videos about that, how this personal mind comes into place. But I do want to mention, though, at the energetic level, the way that this mind, which is the senses, the way this energy comes into formation and is vibrating, is that we experience ourselves only as the five senses. And not only just the five senses, right? So let's just go back and step into this and kind of feel into this. What we know of our reality, apart from what we think about it, let's keep the psychological aspect of that aside. What we know about our reality is sensed by these five senses. What we touch, what we can see, what we hear, all of that. Even at this level, in Kaliyuga, our senses are desensitized. They are at a gross level. I want to mention this, Shakti, mind, is Shiva. They say coming into manifestation, desiring. That's why Shakti is pure desire, pure sensuality, sensing, an ability to sense. Of course, at this level with the five senses that we live with, we think this is the sensing, but it's much more because she's living infinite worlds. That which we are multifaceted, multidimensional. We are sensing at different levels, different worlds. But Shiva, only as the mind, as Shakti, can come into living, can sense. But at the level of Kaliyuga, if we really look at it, even at the level of five senses, there is a desensitization. We don't sense. So even at the five senses, this reality, we are not really sensing the ability. We're not really sensing the depth of what is possible even at the level of five senses, when the mind is vibrating at the level of Kaliyuga. As we step into this deeper and explore this, I want us to invite ourselves for it to be like a story, kind of really experience this as we step into it. Sense the theme of this state of mind to be a state naturally of unconsciousness, distance, separation, to be that life is happening to me. We stand far apart, disconnected from the very life that we are. And not only do we stand far apart, at this level of being unconscious, like I said, we are desensitized, that we experience a sense of powerlessness. Life is outside of me. Our core identity, if you can sense that's why, becomes one that is not whole, that is of lack, as the body and the mind in this identity has an innate energetic experience, sometimes even that the mind cannot see because it's unconscious. It's an energetic experience and living of a feeling that is dancing at the level of I'm not enough, trying to feel enough, lack, unsafe, not feeling secure, insecurity. That is why the experience of uncertainty. Life is happening to me. The core of this theme can be felt and named as fear. It's living in and as flavors of fear. Again, simply an experience as the mind that we are, consciousness we are, simply experiencing it. It's natural that at this phase then we feel at whatever level, subtle or obvious, the living of it is as a victim. Right? That we'll be harmed. Very natural to feel this. The Vedas, that's why. If you look at the written Vedas, that's why the mantras and all of that are translated in such a way that they were writing it for this frame of mind that they knew that was coming. The Yoga Rishis, all of them knew this. That is why the mantras translate as, may I be protected. May I be. As if there is a larger God above us. That was needed as a support. Very relevant for those times. Living in and as the Kaliyuga mind, time, space experience is living in and as pure reactivity. There is hardly any level of conscious awareness. It is living as a habit. We are living as completely as the condition that we've been conditioned as. Visually it's almost like we are at the surface level as the waves. There is no sense of discernment. It's just, if the world is happy, I am happy. If the world is sad and suffering, I am suffering. Absolute powerlessness. If the world is peaceful, only then I can be peaceful. Completely in forgetfulness of the fact that I am peace. I am the being, innate joy of being that determines the world that I experience. So as these waves, we are just bobbing up and down. And that is the experience. That is how this is in Kaliyuga, an experience of deep stress, suffering. We are tethered to the world that is outside of us. That is the phase, pure reactivity. That's why also the world of addiction, where there is no conscious awareness and we are addicted to the world outside. And naturally so. Identified with our conditions as a habit and as the world, as we can really imagine psychologically, feeling powerless. We live as this personal isolated I, and that is the experience of what we may call as the unhealthy ego experience. The personal I, which is trying to live in this world that seems out of its control. We are trying to gain control. See, because the innate experience of this is fragmentation. The identity of every unhealthy, unconscious ego is what we call as the ego. Simply, again I want to name this, an illusion, this I thought. This I thought, when we become one with this I thought, its innate identity is steeped in a sense of lack. That is why no matter what, when we move as a person, and especially the degree of this person is from being very unconscious to slightly conscious. So I want to share about that. There is an experience of absolute unhealthy ego, which is blind, which moves as the world, which we may say when we say, when we get one with the emotions, like everything, it's in the world. That is a different experience to when it starts. It might still be identified as the personal I, but it's starting to get conscious a little bit. So we'll go through that. But as long as we are identified as this isolated I, separate person, that is why the experience of I am this body living in a world, we'll never find a stable ground. We are always wanting our world to become better so that I can feel stable. It's complete, this experience, that's why I call it like complete outside in, opposite of what we are, right? Because the experience of mind, Shakti, if you look at it, is outside in. She's a mirror. She's the opposite. That is why in Bhagavad Gita, it is beautifully shared where Krishna reminds Arjuna, wake up and see the living nature of this mind, which is the opposite. The Ashwata tree, that is the living, is opposite. The roots are up and the branches are down. That which is unlimited is coming and experiencing itself as the limited. That which is timeless is experiencing itself as time. That which lies beyond even the concepts of being fulfilled or complete within itself is experiencing states of limitation that is experienced as being unfulfilled, being incomplete. And naturally, when this level of unconsciousness is dense in Kaliyuga, what will the ego do? And this is something that is, the seeing of this itself is so beautiful and can be life-changing, is that when we see the nature of life, even as unconsciousness, the way that it lives, the way that nature flows, all of life is only flowing an inbuilt mechanism to move towards the wholeness that it is. A wholeness that really can never be fragmented. It's simply an appearance, but it does not know that. But in its experience of feeling unfulfilled, incomplete, unwhole, even in that, its nature is unfolding, trying to move towards the fulfillment that it is, the wholeness that it is, in the best way that it knows how. And I want us to really sense into this, because it will change radically. It holds the possibility to change the way that we might look at ourselves if we find ourselves in the identity of a person, and how we might relate with our world and the unconsciousness that we see. In every place and every subject that it finds itself incomplete, unfulfilled, unwhole, where will it look? It looks outwards. See, because the five senses is the masculine dominant energy mind. This is with the way the energies are. Consciousness, when it comes into manifestation, is dancing. One energy, dancing is the feminine and the masculine. The experience of the five sensory gross is being in the masculine dominant energetic mind world body. That's the experience of it. So where will this unconscious ego that we call simply an illusion, an idea that we are living, where will it go to look for its fulfillment? Naturally, in the world that it is. It only knows its known world. It lives as the five senses. That's where it's going to look for its solutions. Facing outwards, believing the world to be true and the way that it perceives the world and interprets the world, it determines, I'm going to get things from outside. So it fulfills itself from what is in its known world. As long as we step into anything with our cup empty, we have nothing to really give. But we are not aware of that. And that's fine, because this, I want to name this. This is not in any way, because the dualistic mind jumps between these two. This does not mean that we cannot be, and what is in the present moment is not okay. It absolutely is. We can always go into the world, work from wherever we find ourselves. This is not about that. This is just a seeing, an exploration, so that we can deeply sense for ourselves where we might find ourselves, because all subjects are different. For instance, the way that we've interpreted and the way that we've been conditioned, we might not be experiencing that sense of lack at all. It's a space that is so naturally fulfilled for us, we don't even look at it actually. The parts that we struggle, right? Those growth edges, the parts that there is suffering are only the parts that where that lack is there, the confusion is there, lack of clarity is there. We are efforting there. It's not smooth flow. It's not a pure living. Those are the parts. That's why they say darkness is where the light comes in. It's calling us, look deeper. That's where it is, right? So when you look at it, and the ways that this plays out outwardly can be in any ways. It's from subtle to obvious, only for us to know, right? That's why the only one answer, if at all we want to put it that way, that we already are. Our level of awareness, we are already awareness. Once we are aware, just the seeing of it is needed. That's the practice. Ultimately, all of this coming back to know thyself. Be self-aware. So, if you look at the patterns of this, kind of painting a picture, right? How do we see these patterns? When we are relating in relationships, we are taking again half a cup, expecting, relationships are built in a way where you fulfill me. The dynamics of this are set in this. Or we look at it in our work, if you look at it in our parenting patterns. And this is nuanced, right? I want to mention that. This is not black and white, none of this. It's nuanced. Only we will know that for sure. If the outer knowledge or the living of that or knowing of a spiritual knowledge makes me feel fulfilled and complete, then I'm playing in the same paradigm, the same mindset, the same pattern. The face is different. The coloring is different. The core is one and the same. The innate goodness and the invisible current of that wholeness, that which we are, that is playing this game on the surface. That doesn't mean that we don't have discernment. That's why viveka, discernment, is there. We move into the world with discernment when we are with unconscious ego. We can sense it, and we move naturally as if you're the true self, you're moving in awareness as the true self. There's no thinking at all. But the ego, unconscious also, is only trying its best to feel fulfilled through these ways. This is a rasalila, a play of experience. Once we see this, and this is where I really share that, because how much the ego, and naturally so, right? One perspective, it is something that is an experience that creates a lot of suffering. Same thing, same body, mind, world, whether it's for us or for our world. At the same time, when we see this, we're able to see it in a light that is serving. We're able to even see our experience of living as an ego with deep, deep compassion. I love Maya Angelou's quote for that, which is, when we know better, we do better. This is especially relevant for us when we are identified as the personal mind. This is all about the root chakra. This is when the energy comes in. It's the beginning. So one perspective of life energy coming in, and this is what we call as the ascension. Everything happening in the timeless space of awareness, experienced as the ascension that moves. Now, this is just one perspective. There are energies moving from top to bottom as well. But in this case, you'll see it comes into the Mooladhara. Mooladhara is red, bright red. I am, energy says, manifest. And the way this Mooladhara is vibrating, energies, the masculine, feminine energy, the way it's vibrating determines the experience. This is one of the reasons that truly we're invited to depersonalize. It's only this illusion of an I thought that believes that I am this, simply a set of ideas, a construct of ideas. If we put that aside, that's why in one of my videos, in the fear one, I'd shared where I said, when we explore this, keep the story aside, keep the sensation aside, because the story is created and it's all valid because it could have truly happened to us, that experience. We are not negating or denying any of that, but we are keeping it aside to sense that innately we are energy and we are carrying what has happened in the past into our present, every present moment, as an energetic, that energy block or denseness, tamasicness is in the body. So when energy comes in at the level of energy, the way that it comes in the root chakra determines the experience of that living. That comes in, and I also want to name this quickly though, because that's why in the videos that I've been sharing a little about astrology, when the baby is born and the time that they calculate from that and what they see in the stars, they literally can predict the energy of what it's going to experience. As the third density mind, we're living in time as Chronos. And we are at that point right now from DWAPARYUGA moving into Treta Yuga, which is paradigm shift moving into Kairos way of living. But for Chronos way, I want to just mention that. So now life energy is born coming into the root chakra. If the energy is displaced, and that's how it comes in. Now, this is something that we can that I really invite us to explore into. What determines this energy to come in such a way? What determines the displacement or the radiating energy of the root chakra? It is not something that the personal mind could fathom or create it. It just is. There is more to what we are, even at the energetic level. So for us to take things personally, and I want to name this because in the personal dance, we dance as these stories that form the dynamics of guilt, of shame, of regret. I wish I knew better. I wish all of this valid if it helps us become more aware and move out of it. But if not, we carry the baggage of all of this, these dynamics that we carry as the personal, which really does not serve us and only perpetuates our experience of being disempowered. So to waking up to that in some ways. So leaving the story aside, you can say what happens. The way that I've always sensed this is I always have this vision of, being in my mother's womb as the fetus, right? Forming into a baby. I, as Supriya, wasn't present at that time at all, at least from what I know. So what was making sure that the heart was in the right place? That all the nerves, everything, that I was fed, I was nourished, that I grew and, was born as this healthy baby in the relative level, right? In this physicality. It's all energy dancing. All energy dancing. And that's its perfection. It's unfolding. So as we are aware, we see that this root chakra red, and then that energy is moving into the next Swadhisthana. Swadhisthana is the water element, orange colored, feeling, sensing space. What energy is vibrating is going to be sensed. The theme of the root chakra is what determines how safe or unsafe we feel at the energetic level. How supported or unsupported we feel. How secure or insecure we feel. If our root chakra is majorly displaced, no matter how certain or safe our outer environment, our lived experience, that's why I always come back to experience is not the outer, it's a living experience, it's an internal experience of what we sense. Our internal experience, even in the safest of an environment, will be that we feel unsafe. That is why the call to come deeper and sense into this energetically. And that's why I share, and I'm going to continue doing that, share practices of getting this feminine and masculine energies balanced, It really helps. So then naturally the Swadhisthana is colored. That's how we are sensing our world. And then the next is Manipura, above the navel, yellow. Our personal radiating identity, the unique expression of that which we are. Which is the expression that is going to come from that unfulfillment, from that insecurity. There's no personal I, it's just a mechanism happening. Right? And then even this happening, from moving from unconscious to conscious, it's just a flow. When it happens, we start becoming more aware. And another thing here, so beautiful when it all comes together when you really see, for us in our culture, that's why the ruling goddess, right, Shakti, of these chakras is Ma Durga and Ma Kali. This is our energy in those aspects when we find ourselves in deep tamas. Because when we are in murky, dark waters, effort is needed. It's not that needed, that is just the way of being. Beyond wrong and right, beyond good and bad. It is needed. So that tamas, when you're acting, and that's exactly, see, that rebelliousness, it's a sacred fierceness. When we stand as our energy as Ma Durga or Ma Kali, only the energy of these goddesses are seen to be brave enough to step into darkness, whether it's of ourselves or of our world. Same thing, right? So we step into that fierceness. But we are pure love at the core. For the highest good, this energy rises. It is us. It is within us. Ma Durga. That's why you've seen red colored. You see Kali as the dark. And there are these paintings and scenes where she's drinking blood of the demon. There is no demon. It's all within us. It is depicted that way. So from tamasic, we rise up, and then we'll go into DWAPARYUGA, where I'll share about where we are right now in the mix of coming out of the tamas and moving into rajas, the realm of Lakshmi. I am creating pure passion, creativity, and also Parvati, heart, love-based world. Love-based identity. Next video, we'll go into DWAPARYUGA. Again, the mind that we are very familiar with, but it's a little more conscious, still living as the personal, but it's created a civilized society that lives according to certain morals, ethics, values that are more open and inclusive than what the Kaliyuga was. Kaliyuga is Iron Age, the middle dark ages, you can say. But again, cycles within cycles, right? On certain aspects, those energies still rise up in our experience, and that's part of the exploration that we can see for ourselves. So what parts of us, what parts of the mind energy that is still vibrating is dancing tamasically, is dancing as Kaliyuga? That is why we in our culture have practices, and all the ancient cultures in their own way, all of them have ways in which we are called to come within, to take stillness, be in stillness, be in silence. So it's an invitation. Then you come in for those days or however it's aligned with the cycles of the moon, all of that, right? Everything is the one consciousness relating. And then we use these practices, whatever, even the yoga practices that we do or even other practices that we do, that we are called to, all bringing us to that one space so that we can become aware. Because all that is needed. The magic of this is that what we need is what we are already, awareness. So in every arising moment, even if you're living as the person, as time to become aware. So Kali reminds us, she comes, her energy is to awaken. I am not that which lives in time, powerless, as lack, as scarcity, limitedness. I am that which is, that which creates time, creates conditions. I live and experience all time. And with this, we'll move into DWAPARYUGA next, the body, mind, world, and play of duality.